Et bonjour à tous, c'est Itakos, on se retrouve pour un nouvel épisode sur The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. On est reparti, on va faire les dernières fins. On est parti. Il nous reste plus qu'on a compté avec le chat, il nous reste à peu près plus que 5 fins. Sachant qu'on a aussi débloqué quelque chose sur le menu qu'on verra en dernier. En trouvant toutes les figurines, on a débloqué un nouveau truc sur le menu. Ça, c'est j'ai toujours mon super son. Attends, le son est un peu fort pour moi. Hop. Là, le chat dit bonjour. C'est bien, c'est un bon chat. Ok, on va essayer de faire ça. Ok, je me demande ce que ça va changer, ça. Attends, je vois, ça n'a rien changé, ça. Non. Ok, allez, allons voir le truc où il faut s'échapper. Je me demande si on peut aller en bas, ce que ça fait. Oh, je me demande ce que ça fait si on va en bas. C'est fermé peut-être. Ah, c'est fermé. Ouais. J'espère que normalement j'aurais fait toutes les fins. J'espère que je n'aurais pas trop loupé. Le message n'est pas le même dans les WC. Ah non, le message a dû changer en effet. Au revoir. Hop. On revient chez nous. Je me demande ce qui va changer. Pour l'instant c'est pareil. Hein. Alors on va voir ça. Ok, pour l'instant rien n'a changé. Ok. Chargement. Ok. Tout est pareil. Ah. Non, ok. Cette ambiance, aucune musique. Juste des bruits de pas et le bruit de mon seau qui tremble. Dans ces longs couloirs. Juste une seconde. Hop. Voilà. Ok. Hop, je voyais plus le timer d'enregistrement. Continue à monter, encore 2 étages. Ouais, pour l'instant tout est identique. Ok. Ça serait la même fin? Je suis déçu. C'est la même fin. Quoi? Non! Quoi? Chut. Ne pleure pas, mon ami. Ah. Oh non. Je peux pas aller avec lui. Oh non. Oh, la musique est magnifique. Oh non, c'est triste. Bon, moi j'ai sauvé le saut. Ok, bon bah une fin en plus. Allez, on est parti.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Le saut il est plus là. Il s'est échappé. Mais comment je vais faire moi pour faire les fins qui restent? Attendez, ça va poser problème là. J'espère qu'il va finir par revenir.
Stanley decided to go to the
replacement
meeting room.
bucket.
Perhaps he had
Ok.
simply missed a memo.
Il y a un saut de remplacement, c'est bon.
And try not to lose this one too, you dolt.
Mais je l'ai pas perdu, je l'ai sauvé.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his
J'ai un
chest
saut de
and
remplacement.
entered the door on his left.
Ce jeu est tellement bien.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever.
Ah, il y a la fin aussi, je dois remonter l'ascenseur avec le saut. Je vais faire ça tout de suite.
Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Du coup, le message s'est dit qu'il avait changé. C'est quoi maintenant le message? Oh, il bouge. Oh oui, c'est vrai, c'est plein de dictons par rapport à l'argent. De l'argent le matin, l'argent le soir, l'argent au petit-déj, l'argent croustillant. Oh.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once
Chaque fois,
again
j'oublie.
stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But
Eh,
Stanley
premier coup.
guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
Oui, le saut me guide.
Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Le chat qui est mignon, il me donne le code, sauf que je l'avais déjà mis. Et merci le chat.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
Et oui, j'ai le saut.
Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Hop, et on remonte. Qu'est-ce qu'il va me dire?
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again.
Ok, j'appuie.
Bucket said nothing.
Ok, il faut que j'appuie sur le chiffre 3. Faut vraiment que j'appuie sur le chiffre 3 du coup?
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Well, he said, the number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent.
Oh.
This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
Dans ce bouton était tellement bien. À tous les coups, le prochain ça va être... Ah, et le numéro 4 aussi, il avait l'air bien. Oh non. C'est la rupture entre Stanley et le saut. Oh, je suis direct en bas. Ah, c'est bien ça. Ah ouais, il faut qu'il comprenne que le chiffre 3 est quand même vachement spécial.
No, 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 said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel.
Feel the happiness.
And the bucket said nothing.
Oh non, le saut est devenu insensible. Oh, aux intérêts de Stanley, c'est triste.
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket contained absolutely nothing at all, only silence.
Quel monstre ce son.
By a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
Je suis déçu. Il me déçoit le saut.
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
C'est triste. Je continue moi. Ah, il dit plus rien là. Quelle est cette solution? Trouvons la solution pour toucher le seau par rapport au chiffre 3.
Said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart.
Oula!
He decided
Il y a un rituel satanique là?
That he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over
conférence de presse.
He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant.
Il y a un mec! Il y avait un mec!
He felt so alive when
il y avait un mec!
Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes
Ça fait
of
peur!
others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work. For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life. This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
Allô, j'ai joué à la démo. Le gars qui a inventé le pizza. Bonjour monsieur.
There was no one here.
Non.
Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak.
Oh non, c'est
To
triste.
listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure. And in that moment, Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant.
Oh non, c'est bien ça, c'est la rupture entre Stanley et
neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
Oh non. C'est tout? Ah, ok. Bon bah c'est triste, c'est joyeux comme fin, dis donc. On a que des fins joyeuses là. C'est l'épisode joyeux. Ah, oh, il y avait un bug de...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Stanley cradled the bucket.
Ok, alors maintenant, l'escape. Allons prendre la sortie escape. Ce qui était le musée et qu'on se faisait écraser là. On va voir ce que ça donne.
Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Escape, explosion, puis vraie fin. Catastrophe.
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Ça me suffit qu'il sorte un Stanley Parable 3 et qui est genre le saut et un autre truc qui débloque des nouvelles fins. Mais en vrai, l'histoire qui a mené le new content, qui a mené à débloquer.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control
qui a permis de débloquer. D'ailleurs, avant de faire la fin explosion, je ferai la vraie fin. Parce que là, je crois qu'on peut aller dans le new content avec le saut aussi, je crois.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both
non, pas la mort du saut.
Death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Non. Je vais m'échapper. Boum. C'est parti. Est-ce que le saut va me sauver? Peut-être que le saut va te sauver. Déjà, il y a une passerelle à droite. Il y avait une passerelle à droite avant?
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
Ça va pas finir comme ça, j'espère. Ah non, c'est bon.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous
Si j'ai rajouté le saut aux conversations, quoi.
In a single visceral instant, the bucket
ça va aussi m'amener dans le musée. Vous savez que ça va m'envoyer au musée du Deluxe, du coup, de l'édition Deluxe.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Le saut vous accueille à la grande exposition. Vous tenez au bord du savoir, tout comme un saut, l'esprit humain est souvent vide à l'intérieur. Avis qu'à faire d'un meilleur, c'est exposition. D'accord. Ouais, le saut il a disparu, il est plus dans mes mains. Oh non, c'est juste une exposition sur les sauts.
Arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own. Can you see the hubris that blinded him?
25 sauts. Il a plus que 25 là.
Is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life.
Le plus grand nombre de sauts pris en photo à ce jour. Le photographe a souffert d'une catatonie de plusieurs semaines causée par l'euphorie de l'exposition à tant de sauts à la fois. Il a plus que 25. Un saut à 2 ans, waouh. C'est un truc de Léonard de Vinci, ça. Cependant, un tel concept n'a jamais existé en vrai car il est considéré comme trop risqué et dangereusement expérimental. Chaque année, des dizaines de personnes sont mises à mort pour le simple fait d'essayer. Eh ben... Saut infernal. Du saut infernal qui au Moyen-Âge est si intense que des dizaines de pays s'affrontèrent pour obtenir le contrôle. Il y a des milliards de morts et malgré tout, c'est un fait de mer, personne ne peut contrôler un saut. J'aime bien le saut infernal. Le saut du stress, présenté sans commentaire. D'accord. C'est un musée sur le saut. C'est incroyable. Oh waouh, évidemment. Dessin de grotte. C'est quoi ce bruit? Il y a des poulies ou un chien? Oui, c'est exactement la même chose.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one.
C'est trop.
It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
L'homme doit se genouiller devant le seau. Le seau accroché. Cette œuvre symbolise la relation nécessaire entre le seau et l'humanité. Quel que soit ce que nous comprenons sur le seau, il y a toujours plus de connaissances qui restent inaccessibles. Cette distance est forcément pour notre bien. Oh, j'ai envie de le ramasser. Et du coup... Oh, j'ai pris le seau.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die.
Quoi?
Let him be crushed by the machine.
Non.
Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler,
J'ai envie de
leader,
rêver.
as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Ok, c'était la fin de la secte du saut. Ils ont vraiment un délire bizarre avec ce saut. Ok. Allez, on a le temps de faire encore une petite fin rapide dans cet épisode.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself.
Là, on va faire la vraie fin.
Stanley's bucket, the only co-worker he would.
Parce que je veux voir si ça m'ouvre de nouveau ça. Parce que je crois que je peux aller dans le new content avec le saut.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Je crois que c'est une fin à part entière.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and
Je commence à les connaître, hein, ces couloirs. C'est pour ça on les connaît tellement bien que dès qu'ils changent un tout petit truc, c'est perturbant mais tellement.
Upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office,
Le problème c'est que je sais pas si ça va débloquer le nouveau content.
To discover not an indication of any human life. But Stanley guessed the correct code by
oui, je sais pas. Je suis parti du new content. Ouais, mais. Le problème après, je sais pas si je vais pouvoir le débloquer en faisant la vraie fin avec le saut. On va voir. Parce que normalement, c'est en faisant la vraie fin qu'on débloque le new content. Il me semble. Je sais plus comment j'avais débloqué la première fois. Mais je me souviens que c'était au tout début. Tu peux y aller avec, vu qu'il est déjà implémenté. Oui, oui, oui.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Voilà, on va avoir du nouveau dialogue du coup, avec le saut.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Moi le saut. Oh, il y a toujours les écrans un peu mal foutus là.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly
Oh non, ne
burst
pleure
into
pas le
tears
saut.
as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Le saut, il va pleurer.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do?
Pourquoi le
What
saut?
kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He
No,
couldn't
dans le
accept
saut.
it. His own life in someone else's control, never!
Never.
He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
Oh no.
At this point, he could trust no one except
The
for the
bucket.
bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy,
Allez, allons
or
éteindre tout
sad,
ça.
or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would...
Off.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over?
J'ai l'impression que ça va pas changer grand chose.
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to ski in every country on Earth.
Éternuer dans chaque pays du monde, quoi.
Watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end.
Aucun
True,
sens.
it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust,
Ah oui, mon
to
camarade.
support, and...
Ah. Oh. 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 Oh.
What Wait, what was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
Quoi? Non.
An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
Oh non, même le bâtiment.
Even
Non.
the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket.
Il veut mon seau.
Not to part with the bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms.
Je refuse de m'en
Not while
séparer.
this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room.
Oh
but
no.
at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Ah non, ok. C'est la fin? Oh, ok, ça reset. D'accord. Ok, bon, vraiment, ce saut il est important quoi. Même le bâtiment il veut pas le laisser partir. Ah mince, on va arrêter là. On va arrêter l'épisode ici. J'espère que cet épisode vous aura plu. C'était Yitakos et on se retrouve pour la prochaine fois, dans 2 jours, pour peut-être le dernier épisode sur ce let's play de Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. J'espère que cet épisode vous aura plu et je vous dis à la prochaine. Allez, tchuss.